بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم انشر علينا رحمتك وأنزل علينا حكمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. I always look forward to this event because this is a harbinger of something very special to us, the entrance of the month of Ramadan. And so, talking about the month of Ramadan itself is also very, very special. We ask Allah to bless us in these final days of Sha'ban. Wallahumma ballighna Ramadan. May Allah allow us to reach this month of Ramadan. Of course, some of our loved ones, family members, they didn't make it to this Ramadan. May Allah have mercy on them. And for those that are sick, may Allah grant them a speedy shifa. We're going to speak with a brief introduction just to give you preliminary information, and then we have the questions which Dr. Tariq will lead, and we'll talk a little bit about Salatul Taraweeh, and Qai Anas will give us some more details in that regard. So for the introductory remarks, all of us know the verses from Surah Al-Baqarah that شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, that Quran is the month, that Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. And so the importance of the month of Ramadan is inextricably linked to this great book, Al-Quran Al-Majid. And for that reason, we try to make everything that we do in the month of Ramadan centered around the Quran. So if our fasting is disjointed and not connected to the spirituality that is mentioned within the Quran and the guides that are mentioned within the Quran, then our fasting is not achieving its goal. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the one who gains nothing from their fasting except for hunger and thirst. And we seek refuge from that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ, that whoever witnesses this month should fast, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Sumu li ru'yatihi," right? So fast based on the sighting of the month. Now, of course, the ulama in the modern times have differed over, does it mean a physical sighting of the moon, or does it mean verifying the beginning of the month, right? Some of them, they said no, it should be, it's the act of seeing the moon which is important, and others said no, this is merely the means that they used to utilize in order to determine the beginning of the month. And these months are defined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. Each one is following a fixed appointed one. And so based on that, the majority of the scholars in the United States, the Fiqh Council of North America, many of us, we know ISNA as the organization, but in reality, it's the Fiqh Council, many years determined that not only for ease within the community, but for the sake of consistency and predictability, that it was better to adopt a calculation method. And those that are interested can see the original fatwa at the time that that was determined. And ICCP, like all of the major masajid in this area, we follow the calculation method, which is based on global moon sighting. And this helps all of you because you can go to our website and you can get the dates in advance. Now, based on that, Sunday night is going to be the first night of the month of Ramadan, inshallah. That will be the first night, and then that means that Monday, the 11th, will be the first day of Ramadan, and that will be the first day of fasting. Some say that you don't need to verbally utter the intention for the fasting, but it's a much safer practice to do so. What you can do is you can make your intention for all of the days that you're going to fast the entirety of the month of Ramadan. So I would recommend to all of you that on Sunday night to make that intention. Of course, the intention is in the heart, but the tongue can facilitate that as well. There were questions about ICCP, when will it be open? In the month of Ramadan, the only time the masjid will be closed will be between the time of Isha until the time of Tahajjud. The masjid will be open throughout Ramadan from the time of Tahajjud. So if you like, you can pray here and through the Fajr and continuing all the way until the time of Isha. In the last 10 nights, the masjid is not going to close. So the masjid will be open 24 hours during the last 10 nights of Ramadan, inshallah. Um, Qari Anas, can you tell us a little bit about Salat al-Taraweeh? People are asking about what is the number of raka'at. If you use this one, will be sound better. Raka'at and the timing, and also they're asking about what recitation you'll be doing, and they're asking about Salat al-Witr.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I would like to wish everyone in advance Ramadan Mubarak Saeed. May Allah bless all of you, inshallah. So regarding the Taraweeh prayers, basically we're going to be starting the Isha prayer at 9 and we'll be finishing at 10:30. So we'll have like between the Isha and the Taraweeh to allow everyone to pray Sunnah. And then between the 4 rak'ahs as like guys as usual. So we're gonna have inshallah khatara with the Imams inshallah. And then we're gonna resume our Taraweeh. So the total of Tarawih is going to be, with not including the Isha prayers, 8 rak'ahs. Then we have Shifa and Witr, and of course we include with conclude with the dua of Qunut, inshallah. So and regarding the last 10 days, inshallah, Imam Rifai can or Dr. Tara can mention this, inshallah, to you. So if like you're gonna come for the tahajjud and have like you should not like pray the Shifa and Witr twice. So inshallah, one of the Imams, they're gonna do this in the Taraweeh, and inshallah, will be after the Qiyamah, will be doing the Witr and the Dua, inshallah. So that's regarding the number of the prayers and the time like frame for the Taraweeh. Anything else you said?
They're asking also what you'll be reciting each night. How will
Okay.
they know what you're
So
reciting?
I think Sister Zumruda and Brother Roman and Sister Aisha will be like mentioning that in the WhatsApp group for the from the ayahs I'm going to be starting with. Actually, I will be finishing on behalf of the community the ayahs like in the at ICCP to have like more barakah. Usually I do it at home, but inshallah this year I will be doing it here inshallah at the masjid. And the reason, like, there are a couple of people ask me like why I can't like recite the entire, you know, 30 juz. I said like in each 8 rak'ahs every day. If I to be able to recover, I have to do one juz every day. So one juz every day, it's gonna be almost like 2 hours. So almost 20 rak'ahs we need to do. Or 8 rak'ahs we can do in 8 rak'ahs like one juz, but it's gonna be like too long for you guys. So we try to simplify as much as possible because people are working the next day. And so it depends on each day. Most likely I'm gonna be covering like half of juz hizb. Sometimes I'm gonna do like that's what I usually do. And usually I'm gonna be reciting different types of recitations. As uh, for the last 9 years. So this is not going to be my ninth Ramadan. I'm mentioning the recitation, or Imam Tariq or Imam Rifai mentioning the recitation I'm going to be like doing. So most likely I'm reciting with riwayat warsh. There are some people, they ask me, oh brother, this is not like the right way because here it says this and you are saying this. I said, okay, in warsh it's saying this and in house it's saying that. So but basically that's why we have to mention in the beginning of each tarawih. Regarding also the maqamat, they ask me like the different pitch that you are using in every rak'ah. I said I have to use different like pitches based on the meaning, and maqamat based on the meaning of the ayah. So one brother said, "Can you please use this maqam today?" Or the other sister said, "Oh, please can you use this maqam today?" I said, "I have to go based on the meaning of the ayah, but there are some maqams I cannot do the entire Ramadan. First, requires a lot of energy, to do so." And second, we have to go based on the meaning of the ayah because, for example, if we're going to talk about the Day of Judgment, I cannot recite with maqam al-ajam, which like I have to use in the like happiness ayah for the Day of Jannah, and that's all about it. So inshallah, I'm going to be more than happy to answer all your questions during the Ramadan. If you have any questions, inshallah, regarding the maqams, regarding the tajweed rules, or anything else. So so every day I'm going to be mentioning like in the beginning of the Taraweeh the surah that I'm going to start with. So if you miss not seeing WhatsApp or the thread, I will be like reminding everyone before, like in the beginning of the Taraweeh, the surah that I'm going to start with, inshallah, and the number of the ayah. That way, inshallah, everyone is going to be following, inshallah, with us, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. So the link, yes, yes. So the link that Sister Zumurada have sent already, I will be mentioning the number of the ayahs there, inshallah, that I'm going to be starting from. But also, I'm going to remind them, inshallah, in the Tarawih. There are people sometimes they're just crossing the masjid and they pray with us. They don't have like the access to WhatsApp, and they don't know about things that we do at the masjid. So just any more happiness to do so, inshallah. I'm going to be mentioning that in the beginning of the Tarawih. So that's all about it. Any other questions?
Jazakallah. So we'll be returning back to Qari
Yes,
Anas
thank you.
at the end, inshallah. And I'm gonna request Qari Anas when we conclude the program to also give us a taste of the different styles, so that way, because in the month of Ramadan we don't have a chance to hear which is this maqam and what is that maqam and what is the, so we can recognize it exactly, because we won't have time in the month of Ramadan. So if you can give us a sample of that in the end of the program, Jazakallah. Now we want to hear a little bit about the khawatir. So we'll be having a 5 to 10 minute khatira in the middle of that 1.5 hour program. So I'd like to request Dr. Tariq to tell us about what is our outline for this year for the khatira.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Inshallah, this year I'm going to change the theme a little bit, and I'm going to be talking about ulum al-Quran, the different sciences of the Quran. I'm going to be using a modern book by Sheikh Nuruddin al-Itr, and this will introduce the different disciplines that we use to analyze and to understand, to preserve the Quran, etc. So it's going to be a little bit more like that, and when it's appropriate, I will make reference, inshallah, to whatever was recited that night in the prayer. So that's a theme that I'm going to pick and stick with, inshallah, this year.
Inshallah. And my intention is that this year, when it comes to my turn, I'll be discussing Islamic character. Because my request for myself, first and foremost, and from all of you, is that in the night we're listening to the Quran, we would be doing a disservice if we then behave in a way the next day that contradicts the recitation that we just heard. So what we'll try to do is to extract some of the lessons. We know Aisha radiallahu anha said that the akhlaq of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam kana khuluqul Quran, that it was the embodiment of the Quran sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we should attempt to embody that in our character and our behavior as much as possible. So this is trying to adopt an approach of spirituality centered around suluk, about implementing not on a theoretical level, but trying to really execute that in our behavior and particularly in our speech. On Sunday evenings, we'll have a halaqa on maharim al-lisan, so about the prohibitions of the tongue, and I'll be delivering that about 45 minutes, 1 hour before the iftar on Sundays, inshallah, as we normally do. For the last few years, we've been doing it on books from Al-Ghazali. This year, we're not doing a book from Ghazali, but it's very close to subjects that he's spoken about. A word about traveling. In the verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes fasting mandatory in the month of Ramadan, the framework for people who are excused is already in there. And this is very unusual because typically there'll be a general rule. So establish the prayer, and then the excuse for the person who's not able to pray is separate. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that whoever is able should fast. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. There's a recognition that for some there will be a hardship. Now, within these verses, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ وَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. So you have to pay very close attention to the verses, because there are those that are traveling, and then there are those that are sick. So it seems very simple. that if you're traveling or if you're sick, you just make up the days. But what about the people who are chronically ill? Or what about those who are diabetic and it poses an unreasonable risk? Some people fast and insist on fasting, even though there's a health risk to themselves. They say, well, nothing has happened. And this is a mistake because if they have a medical condition which poses a risk, you should not wait until something happens. And this is really a medical determination. So we're not going to be able to give you that answer. Your physician should be able to assess that these are the hours of fasting and I'll hydrate in the night, so is it going to be a danger? Now many people ask because they're pregnant during that time. Pregnancy is not an automatic. People think that they're not allowed to fast when they're pregnant. You can, but the majority of women find that because of morning sickness, because of other risks, that they prefer not to fast. And usually that is the medically safest route, is to make up the days later. But what happens is that if you choose to make up the days later and then you're nursing immediately after that, especially if you have back-to-back pregnancies, there are situations in which many women have found that they have gone many years and they have many multiple years in which they have to make up that fast. And so the scholars, they differ. What should you do in that case? Some said that this is like the one who is chronically ill, and others, they said no, you can make it up, and it's the same rule without paying any fidya, right? Without paying um, for the amount of food for the needy person. And so that's the needy person, the fidya rule, which is about $10 per day, which is approximately the cost of two simple meals per day. If you multiply it by the 30 days in the month of Ramadan, then you'll get the number $300. And this is the minimum amount. Of course, we would encourage you to give beyond that. Some organizations, they recommend $12 or higher than that, but this is the minimum amount. And this should go to feeding the needy and to the poor, right? And so this is the amount of fidya. There is a lot of confusion within the community. I'm sure Dr. Tariq gets this question many times. They said, I gave fidya for 3 days. I gave fidya for 5 days. If you're doing that, then there's a problem, because if you're only doing part of a month, that means you were able to fast the other days. And if you're able to fast the other days, that means you're not chronically ill. So if you're not chronically ill, what should you do? You should you should make up the days. And this is a good reminder, we're in the last few days before the month of Ramadan. If anyone in our community still has days that they have not made up, then please try to make up those days as soon as possible. And the last note that we'll share before we get into the specific questions is that this is also a great learning opportunity. The month of Ramadan, if you have children, is a month of coming together. It's a month of, people make it about socialization, but it's about relationships. It's about connections. It's about sharing a spiritual experience together. And people have made Ramadan about food and parties and other things, and they took out the religion out of the equation. So some of you have young children, and so now you're trying to determine, is it too long for them to fast? There are other ways that you can incorporate it. People are asking, can our children fast half of the day? You can have them fast in the morning and then they can break their fast at lunch. What I personally have found with kids is that for them to wake up for the suhoor is very difficult, and then they become very sleepy and tired during the school day. So my recommendation would be, let them go through the school day, have their lunch, and let them know that after their lunch they're fasting. And they can fast from lunch until the time of iftar. This is very important because everybody's fasting at the time of iftar. There's a lot of anticipation. So kids really enjoy being in a state of fasting at the time of breaking the fast or iftar. So this would be my recommendation. When do they need to actually start fasting? This is the age of taklif. This is when they reach the age of majority. So of course that age differs. But there's a maximum age, right? It could be as low as 9, it could be as high as 15. But once children reach the age of majority, then they're expected that they should fast completely. But before that, it doesn't. People get very technical. With kids, it's about learning. It's about their experience. It's about sharing and having that sense of excitement that I fasted with everyone. So I would encourage families, have a prize, have ways to celebrate, decorate the home, create a sense of anticipation surrounding the month of Ramadan. Okay, so now it's time to jump into some of the questions that we've gotten. I think it would be helpful for us to begin with zakat, uh,
I'm
if
just
that's
gonna,
possible. Sure, okay, Bismillah.
yeah, let me just read what I have.
Okay.
These are questions that have absolutely nothing to do with Ramadan. I had heard that one should consummate their marriage within 40 days of nikah. Is this true? And if so, is it a recommendation or something that's wajib? No, consummation of marriage is not a condition for a valid marriage. What if you're, 95 and you get married to somebody who's 89? That's very different than people who are 17 and 18 getting married. Consummation is a byproduct of marriage. So the marriage makes the sexual act permissible, but the sexual act is not a mandatory thing for the marriage. Of course, this has to do with the agreement of the spouses. If one wants a sexual act and one doesn't, that's another story altogether. But no, it's not something that is obligatory because, as I said, it's not a condition for a valid nikah. What is considered consummation? The girl had read that, this is the problem, the girl had read. Don't read, just come and ask me and I'll tell you the answer. But people go online and they search things and they share things, and back home they did this and over there they did that, and this is why we have all of these problems. So don't read and just come and ask. The girl had read that consummation could just be a man seeing his wife uncovered rather than having intercourse. No. The أو دخلتم بهن, to the consummation, the dukhul in the Sharia is the sexual act. That is what the consummation of marriage. Somebody can get married, they can come to the mosque, for example, they can do the nikah, and then after they do the nikah, by an hour or two, they're divorced. So this is a marriage that did not have a consummation versus a marriage that took place and there was a sexual act in which it was consummated. So the difference is that the couple that was married in which there was no consummation and then there was a divorce, she has to return half of the mahr. After the consummation, the entire mahr is obligatory for the man to give the woman, even if he had not given it to her, and even if the mahr was not mentioned in the contract, he still has to give her a mahrul mithl, a similar dowry. So the consummation is the sexual act. Is consummation necessary to be entitled to your mahr? The whole mahr, as I just said. Okay, do we pay zakah on the value of the 401ks, or do we wait to pay zakah when we start withdrawing from it at retirement? As I said before, there is no zakah on the 401k because it violates one of the major conditions for the zakah, is that you have to have complete ownership. Al-milku tam. All four madhahib say you have to have complete ownership. The 401k is something that is khas for you. It is specific to you, but it is not your entire ownership. By the proof is that if you take an early withdrawal, you are penalized. The fact that there is a penalty violates the Sharia understanding of complete ownership. Complete ownership is, I have this thing in my pocket, it's mine, and I can give it to Anas, or I can give it to Rifai, or I can put it back in my pocket. It's unencumbered. So because the 401k has that shield on it, then it does not reach the threshold for zakah. After 59 and a half, or whatever the age, maybe that's the wrong age, whatever the retirement age is, and you have to take a mandatory withdrawal, then you can start considering the zakah situation if there is no penalty in withdrawing the money. In that case, you are going to pay 10% on the portfolio, 10% on the return on the portfolio per year. That's the modern fatwa on the retirement accounts. When it comes to Roth accounts are a little bit different because after, I think it's a 5-year period, then it's unencumbered. So then when it's unencumbered and it's yours, then you are going to have to pay the normal 2.5% on it. But if you are living off of the Roth and you are retiring, that's your actual retirement money, and you need it, then we are going to follow the fatwa that we're going to pay 10% on the return. I hope that that's clear, inshallah. If we regularly wear gold or jewelry, do we have to pay zakah on it? In the Shafi'i madhab, we don't pay zakah on lawful jewelry. So women do not pay zakah whether they wear their jewelry or they don't wear the jewelry. There's no zakah in the Shafi'i madhab, and the Ahnaf, they pay the zakah. So you can follow whichever opinion you want because they're equally valid. Do we deduct expenses, rent, mortgage for the month we calculate and pay zakah? Seems like this varies by which fiqh one follows. No, the zakah is on residual money, money that's left over. So obviously you have to deduct it's not on gross, it's on net. So if you make $1,000 a month and your expenses are $700 a month, then you have $300 left. So that's what matters, not that you made 1,000. The money has to come into your possession. That's the first condition. Then the second condition is that the money has to reach the minimal zakatable amount, which is the value, the dollar value of 85 grams of 21 karat gold. So that's like maybe $5,000, $6,000. So the second condition is you have to reach that threshold and then go beyond it. And then the third condition is that you have to hold that money for an entire lunar year. After that, then you pay the 2.5%, 2.5%, 2.5%. But if the money is fluctuating in and out, then you're always going to reset your zakah calendar. Is it okay for men to wear silk? What's a sherwani?
It's a suit.
A suit. And what is okay. I think the person, I received this as an email, and I thought I answered it. And if I didn't, so whoever asked this question, I apologize if I didn't answer it. Is it okay for a man to wear silk sherwani if the lining is non-silk and other piece of non-silk clothing is worn underneath the silk sherwani? Same thing with a silk vest. Is it okay for men to wear a silk vest if the shirt underneath is not silk? The four Sunni madhahibs are in agreement that silk is not permissible for men with the following understanding. Is that number one is that it is 100% silk. If the fabric is mixed fabric in which the silk is less than 50%, so silk and wool is a very common mix you'll find with men's garments. If the silk content is 49% or less, that's okay. And the other thing is, and the other exception is that the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, he said if you have this much amount of silk, it would be permissible. So like a handkerchief or like a tie, that's an excusable amount. However, there is a very minor dissenting opinion within the Hanafi madhab that silk is not prohibited for men. So the person who asked this question, if you own the sherwani or the vest, the man, and it's already silk and you're stuck with it, okay, then in that regard, you have to go to a function and you have to wear this outfit at this function, then you can follow that minor opinion. But don't take that minor opinion and be like, oh, the Imam said it's okay, and then go and buy silk. No, that's because it's 98.5% of the fuqaha say that it is not permissible. Silk and gold, those are usually what we talk about. But even in gold, there is a minor dissenting opinion for a certain amount of gold for men. So you have to be careful when we talk about these things because there are differences of opinion, but some cases the difference of opinion is not strong enough that we advocate that we follow. So again, if you own the thing already, and you didn't know the ruling and you thought it was okay, then that's fine. You can, don't throw it away, but don't go out and buy something new. Allahumma salli. I was going to say something about the silk. Oh, the thing about the silk touching, there is a statement attributed to Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu about it's okay if it doesn't touch you, but that's not the understood position in the Hanafi madhab. The standard position, as I said, is that if it's 100% silk, it's not permissible for men. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever wears it in the dunya from the men will not wear it in the hereafter. And there is a deeper meaning behind the silk and gold, because the silk and gold are meant for adornment for women. And the Sharia always seeks to pamper the woman, which is something that we've lost, that meaning that we've lost. And that's one of the reasons why we don't wear silk and gold, because it's something that is reserved for them. So for example, some of the fuqaha will say if you have a bed that's made of silk, pillows and sheets and all of that kind of thing, the man can be on that to enjoy it with his wife, but when she leaves the bed, he has to leave the bed, for example. So the idea is there is this concept of the Sharia seeking to pamper and honor the women. That's just our way, and I hope we can revive that, inshallah. Do pregnant and nursing women have to make up? Oh, we did that. I have already missed 2 Ramadans due to pregnancy and nursing. I am nursing my 7-month-old right now. I feel guilty paying the fidya, etc. There's a difference of opinion about if you can't make up the days of the Ramadan that you miss before the following Ramadan, there's a difference of opinion. The fatwa we give is the easy opinion is you just have to make up the day at some point in your life. So keep a calendar or a sheet, a document of how many days you have to make up and work, inshallah, on making up those days. And there's no guilt, because this is something that Allah Ta'ala has given you, this dispensation. And if you are unable to fast because of medical reasons, whether the medical reason is permanent or temporary, the sickness is permanent or temporary, and you fast despite that, you are committing a sin by fasting, right? Because the situation is that your health does not allow the fast. So you have to also keep that in mind. People forget that it's not like I'm tough and I'm going to fast and then I die. You die in sin then, wala'idhu billah. So keep that in mind. Questions from my daughter. By the way, these are anonymous, so I don't know who asked these. My daughters are currently taking Quran lessons. Are girls allowed to touch and recite the Quran during their period? According to Imam Malik in the Maliki madhab, yes. So we take the Maliki position because we don't want to prevent anybody from learning the Quran. So the fuqaha of the Malikiyya, they say that a woman who has her period, who is studying her Quran, can recite the Quran, can touch the page of the Quran. Some of them even said she can touch the mushaf. But I would recommend, rather than having the whole Quran, you can get the juz, the paras of the Quran. Sometimes they're like 6 or 7 in a volume, or sometimes there's 30, and there's 30 individual one, because an individual juz is not the Quran. The definition of the Quran is the entire revelation of the Quran from the Fatiha to the Nas in one volume written in the Uthmanic script. That's the definition. So if you have one juz, or if you have a volume that has 5 juz, that's not the Quran. If you're wearing a necklace that has Ayat al-Kursi, that's not the Quran. So those things are outside of the issue. So, or you can use it, she can read it from her phone. So in this case, we'll follow Imam Malik radiyallahu anhu. Are we not allowed to have mirrors in the room? Well, how are you going to get dressed and comb your hair? I don't know.
I had to chuckle when I said
My daughter had covered all the mirrors with blankets because her teacher had said the jinn can come through the mirror. We didn't learn about jinn in Al-Azhar. We learned about Quran and Sunnah. So if you want to learn about Islam and the Quran and Sunnah, I can teach you. You want to go to the jinn, you go to the Salafis and the Wahhabis, and they'll tell you about the jinn and tonic, as Brother Mohsin says, and all that kind of stuff. No, the mirrors are fine. The idea of mirrors and spirits is a Shinto practice. So in the Shinto faith, the indigenous faith of Japan, there's an issue of mirrors, and because the mirror is one of the artifacts that the sun god or goddess, I think it was the sun goddess, astaghfirullah al-azim, used to lure her children out of the cave. And the mirror, and I think it is the sword, and there's 3 holy relics in the Japanese tradition. And these are the relics that are carried in these special boxes when there's a coronation of a new emperor. The mirror is one of those relics. So perhaps there's something there with spirits, but no, not that I know of, it's fine. Are there any special fasting before the month of Ramadan? Yeah, you can fast the last day of the year, the first day of the year. That's in Muharram, and then there's Ashura, that's the 10th of Muharram. Safar, Rabi al-Awwal, Rabi al-Akhir, Jamad al-Jum'ah. And then there's the fasting of Rajab. All of the hadith about the fasting in Rajab are weak, but there's so many of them that a lot of people like to fast in the month of Rajab, and of course in the month of Sha'ban. And then there are the Mondays and Thursdays of every week, and then the white days of every month, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every lunar month, and then of course the 6 days of Shawwal after Ramadan. I'm interested in learning Islamic spirituality and meditation, muraqabah. Is there a teacher who can help me? You can come and see me after this, and I can give you something to do if you're interested. How can Muslims who live in non-Muslim countries, the US for example, respond when they hear justice? Voting is an obvious answer, but is it acceptable within Islamic principles to engage in civil disobedience or take legal action challenging what we perceive as unjust laws? Not only is it acceptable, but it is mandatory and obligatory that we do that, because this is a form of jihad. The Prophet ﷺ said the mightiest of jihad is kalimatun haqqan de sultanin ja'ir, to speak a word of truth to an unjust ruler. And that is why Allah Ta'ala has given our ummah this charge of being a witness to all of humanity, because we are the only people left that will enjoin the good and forbid the evil. So when we have elected officials carrying flags in the halls of Congress of other nations, this is the most dangerous thing to our republic. When we have the commander-in-chief saying openly that he is a Zionist, is the greatest crime that a president of this land can say. He is an American, not a Zionist. It doesn't matter if he's Republican or Democrat. These are huge, huge problems. So yes, we have to kick and scratch and scream and yell and vote and protest and do what we can, because we have to be the moral conscience of this country. That is our charge. What is the role of Islam in America? It is to be that conscious, to bring this country back to its first principles, the principles upon which this republic was founded. These people are insane. These people are insane, and we have to, and we stand up when we can, how we can, and to organize on that. So not only is it permissible, but it is something that is necessary. Of course, within the confines of what the law allows us, and that's also important for us to realize. So we are not people that go against the law or insurrect or sow sedition or are treasonous, but we are a patriotic people and that we follow the rule of law. But alhamdulillah, in this country, the rule of law in this regard allows us to do that. And we should and we will continue to do that, inshallah. Is there anything else that I missed?
I think we have everything.
Okay.
So now we're going to shift to the open session. But for the open session, I have a request. It should be questions related to Ramadan only. I know we took questions that came in advance, but for the open session, we'll limit it to Ramadan-related questions. We have a microphone there. Yeah. I'll pull up the Zoom as well, inshallah. Mhm.
Assalamu alaikum to all of you.
Alaikum salam.
I have been a member of this community for the last 18 years, and my husband's been lived all here all his life, almost from the late 60s. We were having, as Ramzan is upon us, and I have 6 members of my family, 2 of my elderly parents, 87 and 78, and 2 of my younger kids, 16 and 13. And we've been a part of this masjid since it started. My husband and my children, they've developed allergies to the volatile essential oils that are used here in the mosque, the fragrances. And in multiple occasions, we brought this up to the management as well as the board into this thing that this should be taken care of. And I've spoken to all of you as well that are on the panel. And my husband is a professor and is in research, and he's lined up all the research, especially the Lung Association, the Asthmatic Association, of different journals that are there that are saying that this affects your asthma. It could induce asthma. It could cause a cardiac event. It could also be carcinogenic, because these are fumes that are put in the air, and especially if they're toxic to somebody. It
So-
should be, I'm
Sure.
sorry.
I'll give the answer, inshallah.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Especially
Thank you
if
for,
they're toxic to
thank you for the,
somebody. We're not able to attend the mosque. My kids are not here.
well, we're going to
They've
give,
been sent back multiple times.
can we have a chance to answer
Yeah,
the
yeah.
question,
Just
inshallah?
let me explain why.
Sure, I
wanted to
understand the
do that.
question. Yes,
My children
alhamdulillah.
had to go back,
So-
so did my husband had to go back in front of the mosque. And for me, he saw my husband's reaction.
I want to make sure we have a chance to answer the question,
Yeah, sure.
right? So, Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for the question. This is the issue of allergens is something. I have a very bad dust allergy, so I know what that's like. And this is one of the reasons that we have utilized, we employed one of the best contractors for the new activity building, having a very advanced HVAC system. So, inshallah, my hope is that when we open the new building in the next coming weeks, inshallah, that this won't be a problem, inshallah. Whether we can use that system with charcoal filters or not, we can bring that up, inshallah, and determine whether it's possible.
To attend the Ramadan.
Sure.
We're having a
Sure,
Khan, could you please answer
we're
that?
open to all questions, but
Yeah.
we're not gonna have a debate, inshallah.
Yeah.
We're going to just answer
Can you
questions.
answer in Islam if you're being prevented from coming to the masjid because of this hazard? Is it a must that the oil should be there, the fragrance should be there and prevent the 6 members of my family
I
and
d-
other community members to be able to attend the masjid in Ramadan, especially when my father, who lives like 5 miles away from here,
Sister,
is not able to attend?
we've met multiple times about it,
Yeah,
and
could Dr.
and
Tariq, because I asked
that's
him,
up to him. But
yeah,
we're not,
can you
but
please
but we're
answer
not
that
having a
question?
debate. The
Yeah,
question
I
was
did.
asked. Now, if you'd like to answer,
I
please
didn't
speak.
know that we're still. We still. I just came 2 days ago. I didn't know that we're still using the oils. So
Yeah, no, nobody turned it off. So can you please answer, what does it say in Islam if you're preventing a family from attending the mosque and attending?
yeah, but this is not. But the framing of that is not accurate. No one is doing this with the intention of prevention.
I know.
It's a byproduct.
Sister,
It's like sometimes people are allergic to the carpet, sometimes people are allergic to the drywall, sometimes people are, you go to a mosque in an ancient part of an ancient city and, there's the dust or there's there's a bakery here so, I mean, there are all of these things in the atmosphere. So one thing is for certain is that this was not done on purpose with the purpose of preventing you.
Understand that.
But yes, we try to be accessible and I don't like the essential oils myself. So, I mean, I'm not a proponent of them. I don't have an allergic reaction to them, but it's definitely something that we should look into. I mean, I'm not in charge of that, but we'll make sure that inshallah we take that into consideration.
there's also a question here about how to start working on our khushur so early in the month of Ramadan. If it's okay, I'll take this. I think most of us, what prevents us from developing khushur is we don't have spiritual practices. Whenever we work on our careers, we have a schedule, right? So we study certain hours, we have a course, we have a professor. But when it comes to our religion, we don't have a sheikh that we refer to, we don't have a mentor, we don't have a wird, we don't have certain verses of Quran, we don't have a schedule in which this is the time in which we do our adhkar, in which we recite Quran, we review the Quran that we've memorized. So what I would recommend, it seems counterintuitive because when we think of spirituality, we think of something very free flow. But in reality, to facilitate that spirituality, you need structure. And Ramadan provides that structure. So if you want to get that implemented before the month of Ramadan in an easy way, I could say wake up for tahajjud, I could say pray extra sunnah prayers, but I'm not. What I'm saying is simple things. So for example, when you start your salah and you begin with takbirat al-ihram and you say Allahu Akbar, take one moment to visualize, to think about, I'm in the presence of Allah, I'm meeting Allah. You can visualize that Jannah is in front of you, that you're crossing the Sirat. Whatever you need to do, you could imagine being among the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Whatever brings you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think these are good ways to have khushur and be in a state of attentiveness.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I noticed my Masjid Muhammad is my home masjid. I've been going there for years, but I have a condo near here, so I come here a lot too. And
Welcome,
I noticed,
sister.
thank you. But I noticed there's a discrepancy in when certain masjids start Ramadan because some follow, I guess, Saudi Arabia, and then some feel like we should follow North America. So what are your thoughts on that?
So this has to do with the discipline of moon sighting, which obviously we have to do every month because it's not just Ramadan, we need to know the beginning of every month. So the threshold in the Sharia has asked of us that we sight the moon. So determining that the moon has been born astronomically through a calculation is not the threshold for starting the month. The moon actually has to be seen, unlike the daily prayers. The daily prayers is when this time comes, then this is the beginning of this prayer, then when the next time comes, it's the beginning of the other prayer. With the moon, with the lunar month, it's different. So we have to actually see it. So the protocol that we follow is that we use the astronomical calculations to negate a false sighting. So if the new moon is astronomically determined to be born before Maghrib, then that means you can't see it because it's still light out. So if somebody came and said, no, I saw the moon, we use the astronomical calculation to negate the moon sighting. That's the first rule. The second rule is that if the moon has been seen in the east, it has to be seen in the west. So the advantage is that we have this thing about the Fiqh Council of North America, it's very dubious. The Fiqh Council of ISNA for me means nothing. It means it has no authority whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. But the reason I never make a big fuss about it is because we are so west, we are one of the last regions of the globe to see it, that it has been seen somewhere. So if the moon has been seen in the east, it means it has to be seen in the west. That's the second rule. The third issue, where there's the issue of differences of opinion in our inherited law, is it enough if that one person on earth sees it and then I can follow it? Or do we in each region or each time zone or each day and night span, we have to see it? There is an actual difference of opinion. So some of the people that are more traditional and more sort of backward looking in the past, I don't mean that to be pejorative, I mean backward, like I want to stick to the tradition. No, each little region has to see the moon for itself. Obviously, that's not very copacetic in the modern world because we're all on, we're FaceTiming people that are all over the world and things like that. So most of the fiqh organizations, international fiqh bodies, take the global sighting to be permissible. And then the fourth issue is, can you see the moon with the naked eye, or can you see it telescopically? Does the telescopic sighting of the moon also count for the naked eye vision? And the most of the fuqaha say the aided eye, al-ayn al-musallaha, the aided eye with a telescope, etc., is a valid naked eye viewing. These are the four major, or four or five, I can't remember how many, there are 4 or 5 major things when it comes to determining the moon. Since I've been with ICCP and we have, the management has decided to follow the Fiqh Council, there hasn't been 1 month in which there has been a discrepancy. So what I'm saying is a little bit more technical, but it works, and that's what we're doing.
So in between, there was a question online about whether you can file tax returns while you're on Umrah. You can. You can file tax returns. And also there's a question that, is it haram to believe that not all evil spirits are confined? And why Imam Tariq does believe in jinn, since it was mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah as well.
I
know
believe
for
in the
sure
jinn.
that you believe in the
I'm
jinn.
saying we were not taught about the jinn. We taught about the Quran and Sunnah. Have you seen a jinn? I mean, I have seen people that are satanic, shayateen al-ins. That I've seen. We see them every day. No?
I saw too.
No, I have never seen that.
But I mean, you see, Anas, but very few people have seen. Very few people have seen. I'm just saying, when you talk about the jinn, it kind of explodes into the jinn are responsible for everything. So I'm just trying to contain it. I believe in the jinn, of course.
Okay, please.
My shaitan is a jinn. No.
I'm still kind of forming the question in my mind, but piggybacking off of what Imam Rifai was talking about. So I know, like, in Ramadan, we're trying to reconnect with the Quran and like strengthen our iman again, kind of like for the rest of the year and our relationship with Allah. So can we, if there's something that you've been struggling with for a long time, and like this idea of like having structure to like obtain spirituality,
Yeah.
like let's say it's like an emotional struggle or whatever it is, financial, whatever it is are there like certain adhkar or duas, or is there like something else that you can I guess facilitate to like use Ramadan especially to overcome those issues that you're trying to overcome or have been struggling with for a while?
Sure. So of course, Ramadan is a wonderful time of asking dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance. But when we talk about working on issues, by that I meant working on personal issues, right? And so Ramadan, by working on our deficiencies, indirectly it makes you stronger. And a person that is insecure about talking about their weaknesses is actually not a strong person. Right? And that's one of the ironies. Some people, because of ego, it tells you that to acknowledge, imperfections makes you weaker. But in fact, that makes you stronger, because now you have a mastery over your nafs. So that is what the month of Ramadan is really about. And so by identifying things that you want to work on, like if honesty is a problem for someone, so then you can incorporate that in part of your Quran. There are beautiful Ramadan journals that you can download or that you can purchase. And on a daily basis, you can put down and preload. Make sure you don't overload yourself with attainable things that you can do in the month of Ramadan. One thing that I recommend is, if you're not an Arabic speaker, then I strongly recommend every person, if you're able to, read the Quran in translation in your language throughout the day. So read, you know how people, they do one khatam, they read it in Arabic. If you, it only takes about 20 minutes to 30 minutes to read one para, to read one juz'a in English. That's what I would estimate. And it's going to be really, really beneficial and help you to have a connection with the Quran and a connection with the Taraweeh. So that would be one recommended practice.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Can I ask about zakat?
Might as
It's
well.
related to
Okay.
Ramadan. We'll count it.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. We have different like asset classes, like property, stocks, and
Mm.
like and like all of that. How do we factor that in when it comes to paying?
There's no zakah on property.
Okay.
Stocks are considered trade goods, arud al-tijara. So you're going to pay zakah on that by at the end of each year. You're going to see the stock holdings that you have, how much they're worth, and then you're going to pay the 2.5%. What other assets are you concerned with? Stocks, we did that. Anything else? You have like sneakers or something? I mean, like, what do you have that you're trading in? Because if you trade in sneakers, the sneakers would be considered a trade good.
What about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, well, the fatwa
Is it
still is
liquid?
that Bitcoin is haram,
I'm with you on that.
and that's because it's speculative, because we don't know who's behind it and it's not regulated. Not that the concept of cryptocurrency is haram, because all of our currency is crypto from that point, is a digital currency from that point of view. But that aside, if you held, the Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that, it would be a stock, right? You're holding it to sell it, so it would be a trade good. Do you have any goats, camels? Okay, cattle, because there's a lot. That's a very interesting zakah. Do you have any fruit, grapes, dates? Then you're good. Then it's there's nothing on the property, and it's just on the stocks. It's trade goods.
So we'll take one last question, and then we'll request Qari Anas to give us a preview, inshallah. So the question that I have after this one is, Qari Anas, a lot of people, they ask me, they said, we hear
think
Qari Anas
Mohsen.
talk about, we'll take that in a moment,
Oh.
about the maqamat and the different styles in the tune. What is the connection between the melody and the tune and the meaning? How do you change the maqamat according to the meaning? A lot of people have been asking about that, but first we'll take our last question from Brother Mohsen.
Yeah, thank you, Imam Rifai. Just to say that we really look forward to the three of you playing a major role during Ramadan.
No pressure.
This is just to put you on the hook, but also to mention that this session has been very useful. But during Ramadan, if you have any issues and questions, please send them in to the Imams, and they will be online and they will be able to answer. Some of the questions may be uncomfortable for management. The sister here asked a question about oils and fragrances and so on. I compliment her bravery, because it's always, people tend to say these things behind us. She had the forthrightness to say it, and I compliment her for that. Allah will guide us to do the right thing. We don't mean harm for anyone. I am also asthmatic, but I have reconciled myself to deal with the majority opinion of the congregation here as well. Having said that, during Ramadan, one appeal I would make to the three Imams is that we should be mindful that there are a lot of young kids, youth attending our Taraweeh and Halakas. and uh, whatever messages we convey should also be relevant to them and not necessarily to the adults only. Please be mindful of that, because these are the next generation of the ICCP congregation who will take the message forward. And again, once again, thank you so much for all the dedication that the three of you provide. Uh, Dr. Tariq travels a lot, but I'm aware that during his travels, he is the ICCP marketing agent globally. And we thank him for that as well. And Imam Anas, we all look forward to your rendition of the maqamas as well. The congregation takes to you a lot. And Imam Rifai, we compliment you very, very much for bringing together hadiths in the Quran as well as you have done in the last year. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Brother Marcin. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that, we have the microphones, but in reality, Ramadan is a group effort. We have a wonderful management team, a huge set of volunteers,
Yeah.
and the whole community comes
It's really
together.
like playing, like for us, it's just to be a little personal. It's like we're on a team, a sports team, and we've been practicing all season, and this is like the game or like the tournament. For us, that's how I feel Ramadan is. It's like this is its game day, and the whole. I mean, everyone that I work with, my family, they all know that my whole year schedule is based on Ramadan. The first thing I have to schedule is, okay, Ramadan, ICCP, without, inshallah, without fail, and then everything else can fall in its slot. Yes, so we're just up front with the microphones, and of course Anas has the main, he's like, the center, the striker, or whatever the position is. But there's a whole nother thing that you guys don't see, which is everyone behind the scenes that allows us to do this. So it really is a group effort, and for us, it's very transformative and beautiful, and we hope, inshallah, that it's transformative and beautiful for the community as well, inshallah.
The last note that I'll mention before we give the microphone to Qari Anas is nobody asked about the activity building. I was sort of relieved, but I still want to be upfront with everyone that on last Friday, we received the permit that we can start closing everything up. As you know, we're in the finishing phase. It definitely is not going to be ready on Sunday night, but they're working very, very diligently. And so we're hoping that it's just a matter of weeks, inshallah, until the activity building being ready. So now we'd like to give a little bit of a preview. What's the connection between the meaning and the melody? And how do we know, how do you change the tune so we can really feel that impact of the Quran?
So as I mentioned in the beginning of the session, choosing the pitch or the maqam based on the meaning of the ayah give it like a flavor. And also especially when you talk about the day of judgment, you have to basically mention a specific maqam that talks about that day. And regarding the question that Brother Imam Rifai mentioned, a lot of people, they say, okay, I can't read like with the like tajweed rules. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Muzammil, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ tartila means recite the Quran with measured recitation, the articulation of each letter, because the tajweed like pushes you to use your voice automatically. So that's why I encourage everyone in this blessing month, inshallah, to go and watch like some classes, or you can ask me, inshallah, for the tajweed rules that can help you to develop your pronunciation skills. And that's also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the reason why he said وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ tartila. So when you recite the Quran with measured recitation, you feel khushu'. So a lot of people, they say, oh, I read the entire Quran, alhamdulillah. That's a blessing, mashallah. That's a tremendous work and a tremendous effort. But reciting the Quran with tajweed, it's harder and requires a lot of work. So that's why I encourage everyone, inshallah, to work on that, inshallah. The maqams, actually, we have to be clear on that. A lot of imams, all over the world, there are imams, they can recite with different maqams. There are imams, they recite only with one maqam. For example, everyone knows, for example, Sheikh Sudais, he recites with one maqam. But mashallah, he has a beautiful voice, But I would like to tell you, there are imams, they cannot switch their voice or maqams because they are not able to do so. But for example, if we talk about Sheikh Abdul Basit, Abdul Samad, Siddiq al-Manshawi, the big qurra in Egypt, so they are able to recite with 12 maqams. As you know, in the maqams we have 12 maqams, and we have 7 types of recitation in the Quran, because the Quran was revealed with 7 ahruf, 7 types of recitations. And that's why sometimes you hear me, I'm reciting with different recitations every day. And that's why I'm telling everyone, please make sure in this blessing month to, like, while you are reading the Quran, to force yourself to learn the tajweed rules, to be able to pronounce correctly. Because when you, like, for example, mixing the strong letters, the letters of isti'la with the letters, with the soft letters, with the letters of istifal. For example, one of the students, he was mentioning last time, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Said, oh, he said, like, kul and kul is eat and kul is say. If you just switch one letter, switch completely the meaning of the Quran, because there are some Arabic letters that we don't have in the English letters. That's why we have to learn the Quran with tajweed. Tajweed includes what? The pronunciation of the letters, includes like when we don't have a short vowel, how do we merge the letter and pronounce it as a one letter. This is very important to help you read the Quran properly, inshallah. So this is like my points, inshallah. Anything else? Yes.
This Taraweeh is not a concert. So Anas shouldn't get requests. It's not a concert. Play this tune, sing with this maqam. Let Anas do Anas. And our prayer for Anas is that he survives from the first night of Taraweeh until through Salatul Eid. We need him, all of those, especially on Eid day. So don't request, just enjoy and take in this, skill, because it is a skill and it's an art. It's an art form.
Also, regarding a point I would like to mention regarding the Jumu'ah prayers, when I recite slowly, this is okay. As you know, in the Quran, I'm going to be brief. There are 4 types of speed. We have tahqiq, that I'm using before the Jumu'ah prayers, and we have tartil, that we use in our own time to, like, get the deep meaning and to learn more about the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have a tadwir that I'm using when I lead the prayers. So I'm talking about, and there is the hadr that I use to make sure that I have, like, more rewards to read the entire Quran faster. So the one that I use in Jumu'ah prayer is one of the hardest type of speed in the recitation, which is tahqiq. So it requires a lot of energy. So inshallah, Ramadan, I'm going to make sure that I will be short in that, but I'm going to do my best, inshallah, to fulfill all the needs of the community. And as one of the ICCP families, I wish for you, inshallah, Ramadan Mubarak Sa'id, with more happiness, inshallah. And take care of yourself. Don't eat much, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
If it's okay, I'm going to add one thing also, because people, they're asking about what are these maqamat. So let me give you some more details. There are 8 main maqamat, right? Suni'a bi sihrik. But some of them, like maqam al-ajam, they will be very upbeat. It will be very high, right? And then there are other ones, you start low, then you go high. Then there are other ones you start high and then you go low. So for example, it wouldn't be right that if you're talking about كلا إذا بلغت التراقي and then you're going to recite from Surah Qiyamah in Maqam al-Ajam, because it, and then there are other ones like you mentioned, As-Sudais. So As-Sudais, he's mostly in Maqam al-Rast, right? And Maqam al-Rast you find in many of the Saudi Imams, they recite in that, which is a very thoughtful, very engaging, but very simple. And Maqam al-Hijaz as well. Nowadays, Maqam al-Qurd has become very common. But then there are other ones which are very thoughtful, right? So for example, if you're doing a dua, رَبَّنَا وَأَدْخِلْهُمْ, so then you might go a little bit higher, right? You might go Maqam al-Saba, right? So how would you change this according to what you're reciting? I think this is what, because sometimes people, they notice that you change the style, so they want to know what's happening in the meaning.
So, for example, I'm just giving you an example, as Imam Rifai mentioned at the beginning of the session. So, when you are making a dua, for example, in the ending of the last 5 ayahs of Surah Al-Imran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm going to use one maqam, it's called Maqam Saba. Maqam Saba, yani you feel like a lot of khushu', and especially I'm using it a lot in the du'as. So when I say, ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة or ربنا وآتنا في الدنيا حسنة. But if I'm gonna talk about, for example, the day of يعني القيامة, I'm gonna use like مقام صبا. I'm gonna say وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. This is called مقام صبا. And also, if I'm gonna talk about مقام al-Kurd, that I'm usually like everyone loves مقام al-Kurd. I'm gonna use it, for example, in Surah al-Hashr. I'm gonna say هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر. So this is مقام الكرد. So I'm using different مقامs based on the meaning of the Quran, inshallah. And if you, inshallah, would like to join the Tajweed rules and to learn the more classes about the maqams and the grammar of the Quran, inshallah, please make sure that you check with Sister Zumurada.
Jazakallah khairan. We're very fortunate to have Qari Anas. It takes years and years of training to recite the Quran correctly according to the rules of Tajweed, then to learn the qira'at. It's a lost science. There are not a lot of people that are preserving the narrations of the Quran and then to master the execution and the recitation. So we're very privileged to have Qari Anas amongst us and to benefit from his recitation. May Allah put it in his scale of good deeds. We'd like to request Dr. Tariq to close tonight's program with a supplication.
So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, to bless us in these final days of Sha'ban, and may we arrive safely in the month of Ramadan. And we ask Allah ta'ala to have mercy on those who departed and left us this past year. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive them and illuminate their graves. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us ever in His watchful eye and to descend upon us with His love and His mercy. And we ask Allah ta'ala that He accept our fast and accept our good deeds and accept our tahajjud and our taraweeh in this month, and to give us the blessings of the Quran and to make it a month of renewal for us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His mercy and relief for our brothers and sisters in Gaza who are about to embark on this month in the most difficult of circumstances. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them aid and assistance, to clothe them, to feed them, to give them the medicine that they need. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of our brothers and sisters everywhere who are suffering, who are in need that we don't know about. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lift them, to lift us, and to help us lift them, inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وبسر سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل أفضل صلاة على أسعد مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكره الغافلون.